Hello everyone and welcome back to this corner of the VAT. In today's video, I would like to discuss the current state of the Cryo element. From the beginning of the game, freeze teams have been considered quite powerful, by virtue of being the best at crowd control, and having both Cryo Resonance crit rate bonus and Blizzard set, that allowed main carries to not worry about crit rate at all and focus on crit damage instead. But since Sumeru, Cryo reign has ended. With time, Spiral Abyss has slowly shifted to favor single target DPSs, and Cryo has fallen off as a collateral damage. We went from Abyss lineups, for example in version 3.1, where both sides could be cleared with the freeze team, skipping to version 4.1, where only one side could be reasonably cleared with a Cryo character, to finally nowadays version 5.3. Both halves have chambers with singular enemies, that on top of that are highly resistant to Cryo. That shift has tanked the performance of Cryo characters over time. If we take a look at how some other DPS characters perform, for example Navia, Alhaitham or Hutao, despite her respectable age, they still get bursts of Abyss usage when enemies or bonuses benefit them. The health pool of the Spiral Abyss has pretty much doubled going from Fontaine to Natlan. Dendro kept going strong, due to its exceptional number of reactions that gave it high adaptability to any battle state. Electro element has risen on the back of Dendro too, and even Overload archetype has emerged overnight thanks to Traverse and Knockback not being an issue for bigger enemies. Amplifying reactions such as Vaporize survived in this meta thanks to high multipliers of the reaction itself, and no lack of different Pyro main DPS options. Melt is an amplifying reaction too, but it gets a higher multiplier when you're hitting an enemy affected with Cryo with a Pyro character, making it a less attractive option for Cryo carries, which is why the only IC character who is relevant to the meta right now is Citlali, who buffs Pyro damage. If you want to utilize Melt as a Cryo main, you are probably glued to Bennett Sunlin duo, who are already in such high demand, and even then you still risk outrunning Pyro application and start melting with a Pyro character instead. Adding Dendro character to the team to keep the Pyro aura with burning reaction and Melt with a Cryo character is a better solution to that problem. The existence of Burn Melt archetype has kept Wriothesley more relevant in the meta compared to Ayaka, for example, whose Cryo application is just too high to pull it off. But Burn Melt still stays fairly unpopular in general due to demanding very specific characters to function at its best and relatively higher skill ceiling. Poor 4-star characters don't help with element's popularity either. Mika and Frimini are Cryo in the name only, since their kits lean towards physical damage. Layla, Chonyun, Charlotte, and Rosaria don't seem to have enough supportive capabilities to justify them over other characters. Kaya could have been Cryo Sanlin, with the same level of insane energy requirements, but his application of Cryo only starts matching at C6, and with his constellations being locked to a standard banner, it's incredibly rare to have. On average, players have him at C1, C2. To sum it up, the inability to freeze bosses and take full advantage of the Blizzard set bonus, complicated Melt playstyle, and lack of any new reactions had essentially turned Cryo into light blue colored physical. In this video I am focusing on the state of Cryo, but if you are interested in the overview of other outsiders, Geo, Anima carries, and physical, please leave this video a like, so I know that you find them interesting too. Now we are in 2025 with Lumen Cryo Revival. Abyss has finally started adding bonuses for Cryo damage, and quite generous ones, alongside a new Cryo support /top DPS Escoffier who has just been released. First thing I did upon installing the new update is pull for her signature and C1. But after pulling excitement has settled down, I found myself asking the question why. Between Tirides Kakomi, Furina, Kazuha, and Shinhe, Ayaka is not lacking in ways to increase her personal damage. So, is Escoffier the ultimate freeze enabler that you need to play Cryo in 2025 or not? Main reason to pull for Escoffier is her ability to shred Cryo and Hydro resistance up to 55% if your team consists only of characters of these elements. Beyond that, her C1 adds 60% Cryo crit damage, very specific constellation, but her signature only adds to her personal off-field damage. Theoretically, Escoffier Shred is the highest in the game, which is impressive for a C0. The closest competitors would be Solonen, who shreds 36% elemental resistance, which goes up to 45% shred at C3, or an anima character equipped with Iridescent Venery, with 40% resistance shred to a swirled element. The good news is that Escoffier's elemental shred does add to Shinhe's burst bonus, making a total of 70% cryo resistance shred. It is important to note that the effect of this shredding depends on the enemy. If the enemy already has lower resistance, the effect of the shred is halved. But even with that condition, the more shred you can stack without giving up on personal damage, the better. Let's compare different teams. I am going to use Ayaka for a main cryo damage dealer. I am starting with Ayaka Premium on Blizzard's Rare set. On our favorite Dorita chip, it shows about 37,000 damage per Ayaka's burst tick. Since Freeze is known for their crowd control abilities, I am going to test the teams in a short challenge in Lemuria, and in 2 minutes Ayaka Premium has managed to kill 32 of those. Lastly, I am paying a visit to a somewhat freezable local legend Rocky, and it would take slightly more than 2 minutes for this team to deal with him. Going into Ayaka, Furina and Charlotte as a Cryo Resonance Enabler and Healer, I can definitely notice that the rotation becomes less natural. TDDS on Charlotte requires me to switch from her into Ayaka, but I also want to swirl Cryo. So I have to start with Ayaka, swirl her application, do a full rotation, and then finish on her again, now being able to deal damage. In the premium team, the next character directly benefits from previous character's actions. That being said, despite lower damage from Ayaka's sticks and slight loss in AoE, Furina's personal damage and damage bonus that she gives to the team make fighting single target much nicer. Triple Cryo with Escoffier and Shinhe shows incredible result. Despite losing a bit of crit damage when switching to Morichi's Hunter set, Ayaka's personal damage becomes higher, which alongside high Escoffier's off-field damage makes this team comfortable in any situation. If you don't have Shinhe, and I totally get that with her notoriously slow reruns, replacing her with the TDS holder still keeps the team performing nicely. The other side of Escoffier's kit, Hydra Shred, allows her to be slotted in Hydra main teams too. Out of these options I have Kokomi, whose so-called mono Hydra has been situationally strong, and freeing Kazuha from this team is a good enough reason to pick up Escoffier, who would perform in this role wonderfully at C0. It's a single target team only, so here's the result for Rock Clear. The good thing is that you don't have to fulfill Escoffier's passive. She's good enough sub DPS on her own, and with Hydra being such a strong and wanted element, there is a good chance that you are playing her with 1 or 2 Hydra characters, reaching from 10 to 15% shred without restricting yourself to only a team of 2 elements. In fact, Escoffier is a strong healer for Furina, with these two making a powerful core for a lot of DPS characters. Going back to the restrictive nation of Escoffier's passive, I am not sure how to feel about it. On the one hand, these restrictions massively increase the amount of supports you feel like you need to pull. Before you could focus on having a couple of good supports, for example Kazuha, Chun-Li, or Silonen, who are generally strong enough to be slotted in many teams. But now Escoffier has better shred, albeit in a pretty specific situation. She will single-handedly burst a new team type, the new enabled plunge gameplay style that only 1.5 characters could benefit before her. In the past, having characters locked behind very specific teammates, such as Chiori, Lini or Emily, have resulted in a low ownership for these characters. So I am surprised to see more of those, not less, but this time it seems to work in favor of the character. On the other hand, it is a way to shake up the meta and make gameplay feel more varied, as we are seeing today with the cryo-heavy teams being relevant again at a cost of 1 5-star. But if this is the way team building is going to continue, I would personally prefer slightly more flavor to the restrictions. I like that Furina and Escoffier are from the same region. It keeps the visual identity of the team consistent. But why does Escoffier want only Hydro and Cryo elements? She isn't strictly an ice cream chef. What else could have been done to keep Cryo slightly more competitive? I feel like Abyss bonuses and AoE required chambers are a good compromise that would have kept Cryo, and not only them, but also Electrocharge reaction for example and anima characters, more relevant that we have found them in the 5.x versions. A new elemental reaction would have been nice to have, but it doesn't seem likely. Physical damage revival could be exciting, and would benefit Cryo characters as well. As for Escoffier, I found her to be a nice addition to the roster. Cryo revival in 2025 was not on my bingo card, but it is highly appreciated. Beyond that, Escoffier's off-field damage is nice on its own, making her a strong option even for teams that don't fully benefit from her passive. The cherry on top is that she doesn't power creep her. It's the opposite. They work really well together, which is a refreshing situation in a long-running live service game. What do you think about the new character? Do you find her overly restrictive or a necessary addition to carry Cryo characters into fights with health pools that keep growing with no end in sight? Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you soon. Bye bye!